Should beginners train their arms? Can arm muscles grow from only compound movements? Here's an analysis based on several studies. Study 1. Compared single-joint isolation exercises and multi-joint compound exercises on biceps growth. 29 participants were divided into two groups. One group did high pulley lat pull-downs, compound, and the other group did bicep curls, isolation. Both groups trained twice a week for 10 weeks. Results showed significant bicep growth in both groups with no difference in the amount of growth. This suggests that compound pulling exercises can stimulate bicep growth just as effectively as isolation exercises. Study 2 explored whether adding isolation arm exercises to compound movements would further promote arm muscle hypertrophy. 29 untrained men were divided into two groups. One did only compound exercises, high pulley lat pull down and bench press, and the other added isolation exercises, barbell curls and tricep extensions, after the compound exercises. Over 10 weeks, adding isolation exercises did not result in more arm muscle growth compared to compound exercises alone. Study 3, a similar study but with 20 men who had at least 2.5 years of training experience. The results again showed no additional benefits from adding isolation exercises after compound movements. Study 4 found that adding isolation exercises after compound movements increased muscle fatigue and soreness without providing extra benefits. Isolation exercises might be more useful for correcting muscle imbalances rather than enhancing overall muscle growth. All these studies indicate that adding isolation exercises to compound movements does not support additional arm muscle growth. However, these studies had limitations, such as small sample sizes and variable comparisons. Study 5, 2020. A larger study with 43 untrained men divided into four groups. Group 1 did only bench press, compound. Group 2 did only skull crushers, isolation. Group 3 did bench press, followed by skull crushers. Group 4 did skull crushers, followed by bench press. Weights used were 80% of their 12 RM, with a 3-minute rest between sets. The study lasted 10 weeks, with increasing total sets over time. Chest and tricep muscle cross-sectional areas were measured. For the chest, the bench press and bench press followed by skull crushers groups showed more significant growth. The skull crushers only group saw a slight decrease in chest muscle size since it was the only group not training the bench press. The group that did skull crushers before the bench press had reduced chest gains due to pre-exhaustion, which led to reduced bench press weight and thus lower gains. For the triceps, the bench press alone was sufficient for the lateral head growth. However, the long head and medial head needed additional stimulation from exercises like skull crushers for optimal growth. Conclusion: compound movements are sufficient for arm muscle growth, especially for beginners. However, for more detailed and defined triceps, adding 1 or 2 isolation exercises can be beneficial. Aim for an arm circumference that is 36% of your chest circumference for a balanced upper body appearance. Overly large arms can interfere with the performance of major muscle groups, but if you enjoy the look of well-developed arms, feel free to incorporate more arm-specific exercises. Final recommendation: beginners can primarily focus on compound movements for overall muscle development. As you advance and aim for specific muscle details, adding isolation exercises can be considered. Does muscle growth require strength gains? There's debate over whether incorporating strength training during muscle building phases accelerates muscle growth. Let's examine the research. Study 1, 2021, a randomized controlled trial split 26 participants into two groups. One group did pure hypertrophy training for 8 weeks, while the other group did 3 weeks of strength training followed by 5 weeks of hypertrophy training. Hypertrophy group, 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps each session, 3 times a week. Strength then hypertrophy group, 4 sets of 1 to 3 reps of maximum weight for the first 3 weeks, followed by 8 to 12 reps for the remaining 5 weeks, also 3 times a week. Results showed that the hypertrophy group saw faster quadriceps growth in the first 3 weeks. However, by the end of the 8 weeks, the strength then hypertrophy group had more overall quadriceps growth. This suggests that increasing strength initially can enhance subsequent muscle growth. Study 2 investigated the effect of different sequences of strength and hypertrophy phases on muscle hypertrophy. Participants trained the same exercises but differed in sequence. Group 1, 6 weeks of strength training, followed by 6 weeks of hypertrophy training. Group 2, 6 weeks of hypertrophy training, followed by 6 weeks of strength training. The experiment lasted 12 weeks, and results showed no significant difference between the groups. However, if forced to choose, the hypertrophy then strength group slightly outperformed the other. This suggests that the sequence of strength and hypertrophy phases may not have a major impact on muscle growth. Study 3 focused on beginners with no training experience, comparing traditional hypertrophy training, 8 RM weight, with undulating periodization training, alternating hypertrophy and strength phases. Traditional group, consistent 8 RM weight training. Undulating group, varied weight and rep schemes as shown on the screen. After 12 weeks, both groups showed similar muscle growth rates. The undulating group's method, which alternates between hypertrophy and strength phases, did not provide a significant advantage. Conclusion: current research does not conclusively support the idea that incorporating strength training into muscle-building phases results in faster muscle growth compared to traditional hypertrophy training. This may be due to the short duration of the studies, none exceeding 12 weeks. It's known that muscle size contributes to strength, as larger muscles can generate more force. One study found that athletes with more muscle mass had better performances in exercises like deadlifts, bench presses, and squats. However, this study focused on powerlifters, and comparing them to bodybuilders reveals different outcomes. Bodybuilders have more muscle mass, but not necessarily greater strength than weightlifters due to various factors affecting strength. Practical recommendation: incorporating occasional strength phases is feasible, especially to avoid muscle adaptation to consistent training patterns. However, frequent changes in training modalities can hinder strength development. To enhance both muscle growth and strength, consider including 1 to 2 months of strength training annually. This approach helps maintain muscle mass during strength phases and increases muscle sensitivity to hypertrophy stimuli when returning to traditional hypertrophy training. In summary, while muscle size and strength are related, strength training isn't the sole path to muscle growth. Balancing hypertrophy and strength training while ensuring variety and addressing training plateaus can optimize overall muscle development and strength. Is arginine effective? How does it help with muscle growth and performance? To understand the role of arginine, we need to delve into 2 key processes in the body: the urea cycle and the nitric oxide (NO) cycle. Urea cycle. During intense exercise, ammonia levels in the blood increase. Ammonia is highly toxic, and excessive accumulation can inhibit the conversion of pyruvate to acetyl-CoA, disrupting the energy supply to muscles. Ammonia also makes muscles more acidic, affecting muscle contraction and recovery. The urea cycle helps eliminate ammonia. This process converts ammonia into urea, a less toxic compound, which is then transported to the kidneys and excreted in urine. 3 amino acids are critical for this cycle: arginine, citrulline, and ornithine. The cycle involves several steps. 1. Ammonia, carbon dioxide, and ATP combine in mitochondria to form carbamoyl phosphate. 2. Carbamoyl phosphate reacts with ornithine to produce citrulline. 3. Citrulline exits the mitochondria and combines with aspartate to form argininosuccinate. 4. Argininosuccinate is split into arginine and fumarate. 5. Arginine is then hydrolyzed by arginase into ornithine and urea. More arginine means a faster rate of ammonia elimination. Nitric oxide cycle. In the NO cycle, arginine is converted to nitric oxide NO by the enzyme nitric oxide synthase. NO causes blood vessels to relax, increasing blood flow and thereby enhancing the delivery of nutrients and oxygen to muscle tissues. This improves muscle metabolism, repair, and the muscle pump sensation during workouts. Supplementing arginine. Given its roles, one might think that supplementing arginine is essential. However, arginine has low bioavailability, meaning it is not efficiently absorbed and utilized by the body when taken as a supplement. No strong evidence supports that additional arginine supplementation significantly enhances muscle growth or performance. Studies have shown mixed results, often due to small sample sizes or inconclusive findings. Arginine is a conditionally essential amino acid, meaning the body can synthesize it under normal conditions. Most people produce enough arginine to meet their needs. However, in specific situations like growth, injury recovery, or prolonged, intense exercise, arginine demand may increase. Dietary sources. To ensure adequate arginine levels, consume arginine-rich foods, meat, especially poultry like chicken breast, eggs, dairy, seafood, legumes and soy products, nuts and whole grains. Protein powders may also contain arginine. Final recommendations. For vegetarians or those with low dietary protein, arginine supplementation might be beneficial. However, if you already consume enough protein and are not engaged in extremely high-intensity training, additional arginine supplements are likely unnecessary and costly. Not taking arginine won't hinder your progress significantly, and supplementation might only provide marginal gains. In summary, while arginine plays important roles in the urea and nitric oxide cycles, most people can meet their needs through diet alone. Only specific circumstances may warrant supplementation.